Hey everybody, it's Daniel here. In a previous video we kind of made this, or we made something similar to this using RecyclerView, but it was all hard-coded. So look at this now. I've upgraded this app. Now this is pulling using Retrofit and JSON and JSON and a RESTful API. We're actually pulling these names from a database. So this is what we're going to be building today, a list of data where it'll fetch the data from a remote server like Firebase or AWS or Google Cloud Platform or something like that, and it will pull in this JSON APIs, or it'll pull in the JSON data using an API, and you can have a list of data here. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I have this file right here, and if I zoom in so you can see it better, this is basically just JSON. So you can see we have Graham, we've got Howell, we've got lots of different people in here. So if I show you back to the app, you'll notice that, yeah, the name Graham, see the name Graham there? That's really coming from the name right there. And there's just a username, there's a bunch of information here, but this is what we're gonna be building. So hopefully now that you understand that, let's go ahead and get started. So list of data, yeah, I'll put the previous video in the YouTube description so you can figure out where the previous video is. We're gonna kind of pick up where we left off in that video. So this is, this is the list we're gonna build, and again, it's being pulled from a database from this URL. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kill this, and let's go ahead and start creating it. So we have Android Studio open up, and I already made a lot of progress in the previous video. Again, you can go check that out if you want to go check out the previous video, but we're going to be using Retrofit. So a couple of things here. We're going to need to add to our Gradle dependencies. So let's go ahead and just copy that, go back to Android Studio, and we'll go to the Gradle module app folder and file, and we'll do that, format that. We need to sync it, but there's one more thing we need to add first. First, let's go here, and this is for JSON, I think. So we're going to just pull this in also, again, into that line. Here we go. It's looking for the latest version, so we'll do, I think it's 2.4.0. It's the same thing that's up there. Now, the cool thing is if you put something old like that in, it'll actually let you know and say, hey, there's a newer version, 2.4.0. And that goes away. Okay. So that's all good and working. Let's go ahead and sync it. Did I sync it? No, I think I didn't. Let's do sync Gradle. Or you can just, there's a button up here somewhere, I think. It's, what is it? I don't know. I just use the keyboard shortcut all the time. I don't even know what button it is. It's commit, update project. I think it might be, I don't know what it is. Or you can always I just do Command-Shift-A, and then start typing like sync Gradle, and then you can get to it really easily. Okay, so we have that pulled in now. So how do we actually go about using Retrofit? So I have kind of took some notes here. I'm kind of like going through them, trying to explain it in a way that makes sense. But let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and start, let's go to main activity, and let's just try to fetch data. Okay, let's just start with that. So let's go up here. We'll do something like, we'll make a variable called Retrofit, and this will equal, and again, we just pulled in the library, so we have access to it now. We just pulled in Retrofit and the JSON converter deal. So we have there it is, dot builder. Then we can this is kind of using the builder pattern. So we can do add what is it? Base URL. Okay, now we need to go back to Chrome and see what the URL was. So we have this full URL here. So I'm going to copy this URL, and I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to paste the whole thing in there. Even it's asking for the base URL, but we'll fix that in just a second. So we have base URL. Then we also need to add some converter for JSON. So we'll do add converter factory, and then we'll do JSON converter factory, then dot create. So that's a method on there, and so go ahead and end that. And then I think that's it. Yeah, then we'll just go ahead and do build. So that kind of set up Retrofit. Now we kind of need to set up this URL structure, because the way Retrofit works, you kind of pass it a base URL, then you have all your endpoints like the users here in this example too. You have it in its own interface. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll just call this a new Kotlin file. We'll call this API service, be an interface. So, okay, cool. So now we can go ahead and do, we can just do get, yep, that's Retrofit, and then we'll do /users. So now at this point, I'll go back to here, and I'll go ahead and get rid of that. So it's going to be, you know, that URL there, and then the rest of the URL is going to be right there. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so I think we can just do, then we'll call this get fetch all users. And this is going to return a call and a retrofit. Then this will be a list of user. I think it should be right. So every time we access this API service, we can call the fetch all users model or the fetch all users method on it, and it'll return us a list of users. And again, if I command click on there, you can see I already have my user. It's all set up already. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close the stuff we don't need anymore. We are done with this. I think we have a call list user. That should be all good. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is let's go ahead and just kind of reference so let's do this. Let's do retrofit. Let's do this. Val API equals retrofit.create. And then we'll pass in the class we just created. So this API service here, we're going to pass it in what's called API service. And this is Kotlin, so class Java. So that's how we do it right there. Okay, now for the fun part. Now we actually have access. So we're kind of using, one more thing we need to do. Let's go into the manifest. And let's do this. Uses permission internet. We're going to need the internet for this because it's fetching stuff from the server. So it's actually going from my local machine here, or actually from the emulator or an Android device that you have plugged in to this website. So we need internet for that. So now that we have internet now, let's do this. So we have it all set up. Now we can get into the fun part. Okay, let's do, no, API, is that a good name? Yeah. API would probably be fine for now. So API dot fetch all users. Dot enqueue, then we have something we can pass in here. So also, say that thing goes away, you can always, it gives us a little hint of what it wants. So if you put your mouse inside of there and do Command P on a Mac, or I don't know what it is on Windows, you'll have to look it up, but I know on Mac, or you can just put your mouse over there and kind of see what it takes. But what you can do is put your mouse inside of the brackets, do Command P. What we actually need to do is object callback, and we're going to use retrofit there. So the one that says retrofit, a list, I think this is right, of user. Actually, we don't need that, I think. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we're still getting an error here. So I'm going to put my mouse on the object where it has the red squiggly line underneath, do Option Enter, Enter. Then I'm going to select both of these and do Enter. So this should give us back a list of users. And I'm going to do Shift Command down just to reorder them. So responses first and then failures second. You can do the same thing by just copying and pasting that up there to the top. I just like the success to be first. So I think we're getting close to having something working, but we're not there yet. So let's just go ahead and do this really quick. Let's do Daniel. So once we access retrofit there, retrofit, we start with that URL, we add some JSON converter stuff, and we build it. Then we have our API service where we pass in our API service class here that has the fetch all users, and then we're going to say, hey, API.fetch all users, and then all this right here is going to do the work to actually go in the back, to actually go and fetch all this list of users. So we have that now. So on response, so we have on response and on failure. So if there's a success, if it works out just fine, you'll have something in on response. If there's a failure, it'll be a failure. Like didn't work, something went wrong. So Daniel, double quotes, Daniel on failure. And I'm just doing that just so we can kind of see. So let's go ahead and run this. So I'm going to do Control R, or you can press that green button there. And then let's go to our emulator. So we have a list. It still says Daniel. So what's actually going on here? Let's see. Let's go to the logcat, and if we filter it by us, let's clear that. And let's run it one more time. I'm going to go up there and run it. The emulator, and let's see. So it says on response. So we're actually getting some data back. So we can actually go inside of here and do something. We can do, let's do, so we have our method, I think it's, response. So we have, I think it's body. We'll just get the first one, and then we'll get email, why not? So it's giving us an error there. I think it just needs to assert not null. This will work for now. So this is a Kotlin thing. It'll make sure that it's basically, it'll force it to be, or it'll throw an error if it's null. So let's go ahead and run this. So I'm gonna run it with the keyboard shortcut, go back to the emulator, and we should see a name there if this works. Yeah, so we have that at april.biz. So let's go back to our JSON, and yep, there it is. That's what it's pulling, that right there. That's what it is. And why exactly is it pulling that? Because if we go back to our API service, we're getting a list of users. So if we actually go inside of users, we see there's the email. So the email right there, see if I can go back to it. So the email right there aligns with the email right there. So we also have some other stuff we can pull, like say we want to pull the phone. So say we want their phone number. What we can do is is that right? Is that the first? Oh, that's an address. Okay, so all that's part of address, but we have the phone we can access. So let's just do that really quick. So let's do val phone. I think it was a string, I think. Let's go ahead and go back to main activity. Then we'll replace that with phone. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and run it. I'm going to go back to the emulator. There was an error. Did I mess up something? Let's see. Let's do F2. Oh, let's get rid of that for now. So what happened there is, so if I go back, what it's expecting there is it's expecting, because this is a user right there. This is when we were doing the testing with 100 users. Because we added the user there, it's asking for a phone number. So, I mean, I can go ahead and add the phone number in here. So I'll just do it just for, we'll just do 51211. Again, this is not my real number. Do not call this, not my real number. Okay, so I saved that. I'm gonna run it. Let's go back to the emulator and let's see if it pulls this up. So it pulled up, and there we go. And again, it's just saying Daniel because it's still on the 100 users that we added there. So if we go to logcat, we can see, hey, we have the number there. It's 770. It starts with 1770. So if I go back to Chrome, sure enough, 1770, there it is. So this is all kind of cool, but we're not actually displaying it yet. So how can we do that? Let's do something here. I'm gonna comment that out for now, and I'm gonna do this. We'll create a method in just a second, and inside of our onResponse, again, not the onError, but the onResponse, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do show data, and then we're gonna pass in the response.body. And I think that should give us whatever that gives us. So we don't have show data yet, so let's just create that method really quickly. So we have fun, and then we'll call this show data. I think there's a faster way to do this. And I can do option enter, not it, we'll do it side of there. And there we are. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna get rid of that, and I'm gonna force it here to be non-null. So there are a number of ways to do this, but anyway, this is working. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get rid of this because we're not going to use that anymore. And I'm going to copy this for RecyclerView code. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to put it right there. I think that'll work. Okay, so now we'll call this users. There we go. So this should complain now because it doesn't actually line up. So we see if you put your mouse over the user, it says required mutable list and found was just list. So mutable list means you can actually change the list, but just the bottom one. So the bottom one that we need and that we have is just a list of user, just a list and not a list you can change. So let's go back into our user adapter, and we can just change this from mutable list to just a list. And I think we can do that, and that should work. Let's go back to main activity. Okay, so now we're getting close to having this. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And we should have, I'm going to go ahead and just run this because I like running stuff often just to make sure that it actually works. So let's see. So we have a list, but there's kind of blank. There's like nothing there. But if so, it's 202. Let's see. Oh, we took away that. So let's just so we know what's going on, let's do something here. Let's go into users adapter and let's debug this a little bit. So we know, let's go ahead and do this. Let's just go inside of our onBind view holder and let's do this. We'll just do Daniel, and then we'll call this phone number, and then we'll do, actually let's put that one down one line, and do user dot, then we'll do phone. So this should give us a log of all the phone numbers. And this will let us know that data is going into our recycler view. We're just not displaying it correctly. So here are all the phone numbers. So you see we have the 1770, and so the bottom one is 210.0. So let's go back to our JSON. And if we scroll to the bottom, we should see it. What was it again? Let's go back. 210. Where's phone? Let's search for it. 210. Yeah, so there's our phone number there, and that's not. It's coming back in a different order, or maybe. Oh, I bet you I know it must be hidden. I don't know. Scroll down here. I don't see it. I don't see the 210. Anyways, but we're definitely getting data though. So let's just copy that and we'll paste it in here. Oh, we didn't scroll. I know. So if we were to scroll, I bet. So let's go back to there. Let's search for Daniel again. And if we go back to the emulator as we scroll, it'll pull in the bottom ones. Okay, so there's the bottom one right there. So the recycler view just didn't get all the way down. So that's actually working just fine. So what the problem is we can go ahead and close that, and we can go ahead and close that, I guess. And what we need to work with, we can close main activity also. And what we need to work with is let's just hack it a little bit. So where it says holder.firstname.text, we're going to kind of a bad practice, and this needs to be renamed definitely. But for now, just to show you that it works, we'll set the first name. So for every first name, we'll set the text to the phone number just for now. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it. And if we go back into the emulator, we should see phone numbers. And we do. So these phone numbers that you see here are not hard-coded. If you go into main activity, you'll see we don't have the phone numbers anywhere. They're all coming from this JSON file right here. And this is a URL. So this URL, that's the same URL we added right there. And we also have the API service, and it's /users. And we have a method called fetch all users, and we're getting a list of users. And if we command click on the users, we can see, hey, we can get inside of here and we can, first name and last name and email and phone, all that kind of stuff is working. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here. You might have a little bit of fun playing around with the data and seeing what you can pull out. Like you could add more of those. So if I go back to here, you might be able to say, hey, I want to fetch their username or their email address or their website. I mean, we can just easily add one in here. So let's do this. Let's do val website, and we'll do string. Then if we go back to the adapter, we can just change that to website. I'm going to go ahead and run it, go back to the emulator, and you'll see, it might be cut off, but here are their websites. So ola.org and elvis.io and hildgard.org. All the data again is still coming from our URL. So if we were to look for ola.org, see there it is there. So there's our website. So hopefully you learned something. If you liked this, leave a comment below. If you got you got stuck with something, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to respond if I have time. If you want if you want to request another video that I do, let me know, and just leave it in the comments and I'll get to it. So thanks. Hopefully you learned something.